right. Hello, everybody. This is Tom Randall from GoldenCare. I want to welcome you to this Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative webinar today. And we're going to have some fun today looking at the home health care only plans. And again, if you've been on any of these webinars before with us, you know that we have more fun on our sales and kind of conceptual webinars, but these are certainly important too. And today we kind of do a three-footer and talk about all the home health care options that are as far as the home health care only plans. So I'm joined today with my partner in crime, Dennis Reiner. And Dennis and I have had the opportunity and the privilege on my side anyway to work together for years and years and years in this industry. And we've had a lot of trials and errors when it comes to the sales side of it, and we try to pass on just all that fun stuff that works really well for you with our experience. And hopefully you've enjoyed some of these webinars. I see some of the names on there, people who've been on webinars before, and I think I see a couple new names. So welcome. Again, this is a full integrity short-term care initiative. We've gone out and just done a ton of webinars, and we're winding up our second big batch of 48 webinars. I think that we're doing this time around, and we've got coming in for the last couple of weeks of that. So we really appreciate you guys jumping on, and hopefully today we'll have some fun doing our home health care only product training. So I want you to do me a favor. And again, we try to keep these relatively short so people who've been on all these webinars don't have to hear me get on my soapbox for too long. But the big thing we always stress to you folks is that this is really important. There's a lot of gray hair in America, and these next 7 or 8 years are going to be critical to go out and help as many people as we can. And same vein here, Dennis, I'll just take this one. The market has changed so much. Dennis and I have had the blessings and opportunity to be part of selling like $1 billion worth of long-term care over the years. So we were really up to our neck in what used to be literally just a long-term care market was kind of the whole part of the extended care story, where now the market has shifted, and long-term care now, for when you get into the 65 plus market especially, it's just really difficult to get policies in force. And there was a need for this market over these last many years to start expanding and getting more and more different types of products. And if you go on our website, we'll show you at the end, there's recordings of all of our previous trainings, and we go into a little more depth in some of that stuff. But we just want to make sure you guys know, people as seniors, we're living longer, not necessarily healthier. 80% of seniors out there have at least one chronic condition. So we know that this is something that's really important. So Dennis, I'll let you jump in, or I can handle this slide, or you can just talk it through real quickly and briefly as we get into why we're talking today about one of these plans as opposed to the other batch.
Yeah, well, thanks, Tom. You have to have a solution. And for clients, despite whatever their economic circumstances are or whatever their health circumstances are. And so the great thing about these plans is that when we cast the net as wide as we do, and as Tom said, the market has really shifted. And, if you go back, just 10 years ago, these products didn't exist. And so as the market continues to evolve, these carriers listen to input from folks like us, and innovation takes place. And so these home care only plans started maybe a handful of years ago. And GTL was the pioneer in this particular space. Now we have Manhattan Life, and we even have a player that's been around even longer, almost 17 years now, is this non-insurance product, True Freedom Home Care. So the great thing is that when we look at the full short-term care market, even though that has significantly less underwriting than traditional long-term care or the asset-based or hybrid products. And in many cases, as you probably were on some previous webinars, we even talk about doing combination or stacking opportunities where we're combining maybe the short-term care and backfilling with some additional home care. But the opportunity that you have today is to hear just a little bit about the home care only plans. We've already talked probably 2 or 3 different times about Manhattan's OmniFlex, Wallaby's Essential Care, and GTL's Recover Cash, which are the short-term care. So the menu is it gives you more choices. It gives the consumers more choices, which really what it's all about. And Tom, we've had a couple of recent additions to the map, but here's the map as it relates to the short-term care. 37 or so states with GTL. Didn't we have one that just came on I think with the
You
Recover
know, they
Cash.
just did the upgrade. We don't have this broken apart. Remember how they're doing upgrades and having their e-apps available and stuff for the GTL Recover Cash? So it was Kentucky, I think that was the recent addition. So I don't think it was a new state. I think they did their enhanced.
Oh, it was Kentucky was already approved under the previous Recover Cash, but they're now approved under the new version. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna get any more states than about 37 that we have with GTL. And Omni, we have 32 currently and 2 more coming on. That have been approved, but won't be on the platform until probably mid-December, and that's Oregon and Rhode Island. And we don't like to really talk too much about that, because then the next thing you know, we get a bunch of phone calls from agents. Hey, I've got this Oregon case. When's it going to be available? Well, it's approved, but it's just not on the platform. Wallaby came aboard, tail end of August and started out of the gates with 10 states. They will probably, when it's all said and done, be at a total of about 30, but there'll be more states coming in 2024. And so that rounds out kind of the extended care or the short-term care market. And then on the home care side, again, GTL, as I mentioned, pioneered this idea of having a standalone home health care product, which was really a complement to, at the time, to long-term care, as well as a complement to some of the other supplemental plans that were out there. It was really kind of falling into the ancillary space. And then Manhattan came along and mirrored a lot of the similarities of GTL. Tom's going to talk a little bit here in a moment or two, specifically about kind of some side-by-side comparisons. And then, of course, you can see in the purple, much the same way as in the gray, the True Freedom. And it rounds out, again, having product availability in all 50 states, because some of you are on the call and you might be in Florida, you might be in California, and many times people begin to tune out thinking that, hey, you don't have any, I only do business in those particular states, New York, California, maybe Washington. And so the True Freedom is a great complement. We had a training on True Freedom just the other day as well.
You bet. Yeah, and it's one of the things we talk about real quick is, you guys, if you've been on there, but again, I see several names that are new, and you'll hear us say it a lot on the product training. The first map we showed you was the full comprehensive short-term care, like Dennis said. And we talk a lot, you'll hear me, the old cliche several times, the biggest ability of these plans, their availability a lot of times. So that's why we went in first and talked about the fact that number one is what states they're available in. And then number two, when those comprehensive plans have facility and home care and some bigger daily benefits that can give them a lot of bang for their buck. And then when you went into home health care only that we're going to talk about today, that's one of those things that we look at saying they're available in some different states. And then we have True Freedom that, boy, one of its biggest abilities is that its availability is in all 50 states, like we said. So getting into these home health care only plans today is kind of fun because, number one, they're really inexpensive and you put together some plans to do some great things. But on the flip side, they do have a lot of power. And again, the availability of them with the underwriting side of it, not just where they're available on the map, but underwriting. And you're going to see that as we go through today. That's a huge part of the ability of these plans. I think Dennis would agree with me, is that sometimes you got to go out there, you got to make them affordable, you got to make sure they're approved in the state, but then the underwriting side of it makes these plans so easy to turn to, because virtually anybody you're talking to, as you'll see in a few minutes, can qualify for these type of plans. So this looks like a really busy screen, and Dennis, I'll just go ahead and take it, and you can jump in where you feel like you need to. But basically, True Freedom's kind of in a class of its own, and we're going to show you that product. Again, it's a non-insurance product that we think is so valuable because of the 50-state deal. But with GTL Manhattan, you're going to see there's a lot of similarities. So I thought the easiest way is to put it on one slide so you can see these products. Obviously, these carriers are not dumb. Manhattan Life or GTL, they look at each other and say, that product's really working. Maybe we should try to design something that's close to it and have a few little perks or differences, right? So we kind of laugh when you're in the industry or in the trenches like Dennis and I are. It's kind of the battle of the plans, right, Dennis? Where you'll suddenly see, oh, this got approved in this state. Oh, weird. Now this one they pushed harder in that state, or we changed these benefits. And then the next carrier's like, oh, maybe we better make ours a little better too. So it's really interesting. It's been kind of fun because at the end of the day, the win is for you. and your clients, right? As these plans, that's capitalism at its best, if you will, as these carriers are realizing we have to try to keep making these plans as solid as possible and make them even better and more attractive so that people can turn to them. So we've seen a lot of that in this industry that we won't bore you with every detail today, but you'll see a striking one in a second. So if I was going to go through this really quickly, and Dennis, if you want to jump in, certainly just you got to yell at me once in a while because I get on a roll. But the issue ages 61 to 85, Manhattan Life came in after the fact, probably in all actuality, and realized that they felt comfortable saying we don't have to wait till 61. We can go to 45 to 89, which again, a big ability is availability. That's a biggie, right? A really nice big wide band. Service days, this isn't really a deal killer one way or the other, but a same thing, probably conceptually, they said, instead of the 360 days that a lot of the carriers always seem to go to when you look at short-term care and extended care plans, Manhattan said, hey, we'll do 365 days. So you'll get a little bit more bang for your buck with that plan as well. And then from there, it gets a lot more similar, right? Plan A, B, and C for GTL. Manhattan did the same thing, renamed them Classic, Premier, and Deluxe. Again, that's just taste difference or aesthetics. And then the maximum combined daily benefit. These are called defined benefit plans. All of these different services down here are really defined within the brochures and the policy, saying we will pay if you get sick enough to go on claim. When you get to the point where you need help, if you have these type of services, we'll pay a certain amount. And we'll pay for a couple or three of those different services a day, but we cap it at a certain amount that we'll pay for a maximum daily benefit. Again, not expense reimbursement. These are indemnity plans, but these are called defined benefit plans where you do need to have specific types of services for the policy to pay. Make sense? So that'll make sense as I go through more. But again, similarities, 150, 300, or 450 as a maximum combined daily benefit. And this is home care, obviously, and 150, 300, 450, right? So very similar there, identical. Next, skilled nursing. You can see here that GTL said we'll pay 75 if you chose plan A, 150 or 200 for plan C. Obviously, pricing differences here, that's sales 101. So they just pay a little bit more. Over here, same thing, 75, 150, 200. But here's our first little difference. General nursing, they say we're going to pay a little less because that's a less charge for those type of services, where Manhattan simplified theirs and said, let's just leave it the same. Whether it's an RN or an LPN or whatever, we'll pay the same amount. Okay, that's how you can see how easy this is. And this, you'll see this on the recording. I'm not going to go through and beat every one of these to death, but you can see all these different services, very similar, if not identical, right? Chemotherapist, 60, 120, 200. Oh, same thing over here. And then medical social services, 100, 200, 300, 100, 200, 300. So the big difference comes down here when you get into the home health care aid. And this is where one of those changes took place, where you can see here GTL's plan that they have in some of the states still, but most of them have changed over. It's 40, 80, or 120 for home health care aides for only 60 days worth of benefit. Same thing here, 40, 80, 120. I don't say only in a bad way. I'm just saying that's how these plans have always been, because of the fact the underwriting's loose and they have to try to do their best to say this is okay, this warrants it in this market. And this will make more sense in a second. The prescription drug benefit now is 300, 600, 900 with GTL. And Manhattan Life stuck with 300, 600, 600. And again, most of you have been on other calls and know what we're talking about there, but it's a really strong benefit. 65-year-olds in America use an average of 27 prescription drug reimbursements or refills, not 27 different meds. If you haven't been in this field for long, you're going to see a lot of people pull out a whole shoebox full of meds, you guys. But at the end of the day, most people are going to hit that 27 mark when they hit age 65. I'm 58 myself, and I only have 3 different medications, but I get them filled every quarter. So that's 12 right there, right? So that's where they come up with that 27 number, where if you had 7 or 8 different meds getting filled even quarterly, you would hit that 27 mark. So, and 27 is not a magic number, but I'm just pointing that out as an average, because the way these pay is if it's a brand name, you get $25 per refill or prescription. And if it's not brand name, if it's generic, it's $10, okay? So you can see they're very strong the way they reimburse. And some people actually do hit all the way up to that $900, and a lot of people do hit the 600. Okay, so really easy to hit. And Dennis, I'm going to let you jump in here, maybe talk about the changes, because this was pretty significant, wasn't it?
It certainly was. And Tom, this is again where we keep our ear to the ground with these carriers. These are proprietary products in the sense that we've been influential in helping both these carriers to make the changes to make them more consumer friendly and make them more agent friendly as well. Agent friendly being that agents are being more motivated to want to write these particular products. But one of the big changes is GTL without any additional cost. Now it's not available in all states, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Yet, where they have the home health care, short-term home health care only plans. But you can see that what they did was on that previous or the slide that Tom was talking about, they moved it from $40 on plan A to $50, and then on plan B they moved it from $80 to $100, and then plan C to $150. But the big change was they moved it from that 60-day, which is still very good, and again, stay tuned because these carriers begin to mirror each other's, and so right now GTL has an advantage over Manhattan, but it doesn't mean that Manhattan can't come out with an enhancement and mirror that same benefit that moving theirs from 60 to 360. But look at that, no increase of premiums. Just do a simple math. If the most popular plan for GTL is plan B, but let's just take it out a step further and look at plan C at $150 a day. If you times it by 360, that's $67,000, $67,500 to be exact. That's some real meat as it relates to being able to get services. And we know that home health aides are all those other services are really important, but we know that home health aid is usually where people will go first. So Tom, it was a great enhancement, and along with that, they added what they have on the short-term care, the Recover Cash. They add a $3,500 lump sum caregiver benefit, along with this great T-Care family caregiver concierge service, which really helps caregivers, because we know even though these plans will pay, and remember one important point, Tom, I think we need to make sure everyone understands is it doesn't matter what other insurance that people have. These are indemnity-based plans, and they pay regardless of whether or not they have short-term care or traditional long-term care, a hybrid. There's no coordination of benefit. All of them will pay. Even if Medicare was paying for some of these services, this plan will still pay as well.
You bet. You bet. We'll show you on the next screen which states this has already gone into effect. I do want to make sure I clarify for some of you who might be familiar with the existing GTL plan or the Manhattan plan. The way it was before, this home health care aid paid at a smaller amount for only 60 days, but it was an additional benefit that they had in there, like 60 times 40 or 60 times 120. So because I know Dennis certainly knows how it works, but because of the way that he said, that extra bump is huge. That 360 days at 150, for example, it's really nice because home health care aides are so popular at care time. But I do want to make sure now that no longer is an additional benefit. It's part of the overall plan. You know what I mean? So it's part of that 450 in that case. So just so you guys realize that, and again, it's not a bad thing. It's just I want to make sure you didn't think that it was going to be a separate rider that was an extra benefit or anything like that. So it is part
of it. That's an important distinction, Tom, because as you said, these are defined benefit plans, and they're not meant to be the perfect panacea. They're meant in many cases to be supplemental, and they're also meant in many cases to be a place to go when other coverage alternatives are not going to be available, either due to state availability or underwriting availability. So,
you bet. Yep. And here's where it's available. And because of the fact that was a pretty major change. I mean, this isn't something they just throw an amendment on. This is there was no extra cost for the home care. And one more clarification, if you get it, just because I like to be totally transparent, there is a tiny little charge difference for the T-Care and that 3,500, and significant benefit. It's obviously an outside firm, this T-Care, so they do have to pay. They have a contractual basis, or they have to pay something for that. So there is a small premium load for that portion. But as far as the home health care part with the home health aid, that again, the pricing did not change at all on that. And because they had to change the brochures and everything, because this was significant, that's why there's a little delay. In all these states, I would guess, Dennis, there might be one or two weird states that maybe say we just can't go for that. I think most of these states will be blue at some point or the other, and they've been popping pretty fast. This one, you can see 11/8 is when we built this map, and just today I threw these arrows on to let you know that DC, Michigan, and Ohio now would be blue. So the new one's approved there. So we'll have that updated, obviously, in future webinars, but we just didn't have a chance to yet because we just found out yesterday. Okay, does that make sense? Let's move on, if I can. Come on the other screen. All right. And again, when I talk about the availability, one of the biggest abilities are availability. And when you get into the underwriting, we'll show you later where you have our InstaPivot tools and all that stuff. And that InstaPivot tool is great for the short-term care comprehensive plans. But you're going to see today, you don't have to go to med school with these plans, you guys. That's why I want you to know that we build tools to make this as easy as possible for you, to constantly be able to hit that easy button. And when it comes to underwriting, the nice part about these plans is you don't have to think too deep about it, because you can talk to just in conversation, you'll know whether your clients can get these home health care only plans. And here's proof of that right off the application. This is the original version of the GTL short-term care. Remember on that previous screen, some of those haven't changed over yet. So this would be for some of these states that haven't turned blue yet. That application says, number one, are you currently in a nursing home or receiving home health care style benefits? Number two, it says, is the applicant unable to perform activities of daily living? And it lists them out there. Or are you cognitively impaired? That's how simple it is. And if you answer yes to those, you got to stop. But if you answer no, you can get them coverage. If you're applying for the biggest plan, option C, Plan B is the most popular, but there's a lot of Plan C sold. They go one more little step, and it's not a big, huge step, right? In the next 60 days, do you expect to be admitted to a hospital, nursing home, or require home health care services or have surgery? What are they doing here? Protecting the carrier of saying, if somebody knows they're going to have a major surgery or they know something big's coming up, we don't want them to be able to jump on a plan. So that one for Plan C only, that's that question. Look at how wide and net that is, right? Same thing on the new applications. All they did is expanded this question. Now there's 4 questions, but it didn't get much harder, if at all harder, right? Question 1 says, and this is for those states I showed you that switched over to the new benefits. It says, are you currently in an assisted living or nursing home or getting health care? Same exact question as on the other app. Next one says, do you require assistance with activities of daily living? Almost identical to the other one, right? The only thing, cognitive impairment, got moved down to its own question. And it just basically says, within the past 12 months, have you been diagnosed as having true Alzheimer's or dementia or memory loss, et cetera? So basically, they just clarified that question a little bit more because they had agents asking about what does cognitive impairment stand for. So same exact deal here, you guys. And if you get the most robust plan, it basically just broke this into a bullet list. So same question, right? So very, very simple to get home healthcare plans. Manhattan Life, same deal. This is their home healthcare only plan. This is easier yet, right? Because there is no cognitive impairment question. So that's actually a big ability of this plan, is availability. If you have people out there, and you will if you're in the 65 plus market, who are going to have some memory issues. And this one, you can say, hey, as long as you're not receiving care right now, we can still get you a solid Manhattan Life home health care plan. Dennis, anything you need to add to that?
No, Tom, I was just going to say, both of these carriers are just, great companies to work with, and we have great relationships with the management teams there. And you may have your favorite carrier, and it could be GTL, or it might be Manhattan, because you're writing a lot of the Omniflex and you're doing some combo sales. So the main thing is you got to start with, identifying if you've got a client that's 48 years of age, then as much as you may love GTL, you know that GTL's minimum issue age is 61. And then again, you may have a client that is really is struggling maybe with some of that memory loss issue. So it's very important that you have options, and we want to just make sure. And really, the third option here being the True Freedom. If you want me to take this, Tom, I can lead off and
give me one sec. let me jump in 1 second. Dennis hit on some really valuable points about the ages. And again, abilities, availabilities. I say it all the time for a reason. Jump on our webinar when I show you the website today. Jump on our STC 201 when we talk about stacking. And we have another one, life plans and stacking. And you're going to see that sometimes it's people who just aren't healthy enough, or they're only approved in certain states like True Freedom. But sometimes you're going to have people in states that have both short-term care and they're healthy enough to get short-term care. And what you're going to do is say, you know, I'll probably opt, if I'm going to only sell one plan, I'm going to give you the short-term care plan, obviously, because it has a little bit more robustness to it. But tell you what, you can throw in sometimes just a home health care only plan for those folks, even though they're healthy enough to get the full short-term care. But more often, we have agents who are super successful in this extended care market who oftentimes say, I don't stop and just sell them a short-term care plan. You know what I do is I sell them a short-term care plan, and then I stack one of these home health care plans or a True Freedom plan on top of that to give them really strong home care. And you'll be surprised how the dollars work out if you listen to that webinar. So go ahead, Dennis. I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, no, Tom, it's you know, and again, the more you can layer in and be that resource, then we know obviously it creates a stickiness of from a persistency standpoint, and especially for those of you in the Medicare space where this might be your first venture into some form of cross-selling or packaging. And what we're trying to do is give people the complete package of protection. That's really the goal. And so the True Freedom, think of it like AAA or think of it like a Costco. You know, you can't get access to Costco unless you have a membership. You can't get access to True Freedom unless you have a membership. So it's a non-insurance product, and probably the best correlation would be to look at it like a AAA being a member. And again, there's no medical underwriting. It's just suitability. Are you currently living independently, and are you not ADL deficient? Now, some of you may have looked into True Freedom before and maybe only realized that you saw something on the screen here that's a little bit unusual. The True Freedom individual plans that are offered and that they've been offering, and now coming into January of 2024, they'll be in their 17th year of offering these plans. Pretty amazing. And they've had a great track record as far as being able to provide great value to clients. But the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum were the only four choices that were available on the individual side. And we've been involved with True Freedom and kind of took a lead on helping them to innovate and to, in essence, get casting it a little bit wider. So available to you because of your integrity partnership relationship that you're doing business with one of our partners is to have what we call the True Freedom Affinity version. And don't think of the word affinity for any other purposes other than the fact that because you're associated with your partner who is a part of integrity, that being the affinity, you have now a base plan that goes all the way down to 600 lifetime hours. And the reason for that was we know in the Medicare space and the final expense space, there sometimes is some premium sensitivity. And this is a retail plan that starts at just $39 a month before discounts. And so, again, depending upon what the client's trying to accomplish, if you weren't backfilling and just trying to add, as Tom said, some supplemental coverage on a package, you might be looking at bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. The most popular plan of all of those is silver, 3,000 lifetime hours, and value based on the home care hour value today is $84,000. But you can see here that one of the other things that makes it unique for your offering is that every one of your clients that you offer True Freedom to not only get certain discounts, such as a 5% discount if they pay annual, a 10% discount if they buy as a couple, and a 10% non-use discount starting in the second year, second, third, fourth, and fifth year, but they get a 10% member discount. So you're setting yourself apart from the competition, and that 10% member discount does not have any comp reduction. That is huge, and it's a great value. And you start looking at these rates for someone who buys it today and doesn't plan to use it till sometime in the future, with all those discount savings, it is a tremendous value. And Tom, they come with all the network of all the the who's who in the home care space as it relates to the hours.
You bet. Dennis, I just want to bring up one thing before we show some of those network partners, because they have thousands of them, is remember in short-term care, one of the big things, not the home health care only plans, but short-term care, some of those plans have inflation because people buy these plans and say, wow, I'd kind of like the inflation protection. And I just wanted to point out, this kind of has built-in inflation protection because of the fact you're not buying an $84,000 benefit for a silver plan, for example. What you're buying is 3,000 hours worth of care. So we know the cost of care is obviously going to do what in the future? It's going to go up, right? We know it might go up significantly, but right now they just do an overall value that they decided the carrier saying, let's use $28 an hour because that's one of the averages that they see nationwide. Now, some areas it's more than that, some less, but that's kind of just a ballpark, and that's why they had to disclaim it here. But that's a huge plus for your clients on planning ahead. When you talk about that in our sales webinars and talk about how easy it is to start the conversation, remember that if you're in one of those states, or if you just want true freedom in general in any state, remember the power of the built-in inflation, because right now it's valued at 84,000, but if you watch us give this webinar a couple of years from now, it'll probably be a little different number there, right? Because they'll say, well, right now we value it about $30 because costs have gone up. So does that make sense? It could be worth significantly more in the future. So Dennis, I'll turn it back to you because you're so good at explaining these care helpers, but this is huge because of the fact that they've been around for 17 years, like Dennis said, and they just have a stellar reputation at True Freedom, and they've worked with some of these top carriers. I think Synergy is the number 3, right, Dennis?
Yeah, Synergy is number 3. And what's interesting is if you listen to one of the recorded webinars where we invite Chen Randall on, who is the chief administrative officer. She's been there day one for those near 17 years. And she talked about how it was a struggle in those early first few years to get these home care agencies to want to take out a contract with them because they said, who's True Freedom and what do they do? Today, she says they have home care partners begging to become partners with them. Because of the fact that they have done such a bang up job. And Synergy is the number 3. And some of the material that your partners that invite you on this call can provide you, and they can reach out to us if they need anything from our end. But Synergy calls True Freedom the gold standard when it comes to paying claims because they pay all their claims weekly. And so one of the things, Tom, just to back up for a quick second, in addition to those agency hours here, which are available, and by the way, as Tom said, there's a whole list of smaller regional carriers because in some areas they may not have a comfort keeper or senior helpers, and so they also have contracts with smaller regional carriers as well. But also the True Freedom, you cannot pay a family member, but there is a provision in the contract where when the client needs care that is, off hours of when agency hours are not available, they can have anytime hours, and that's where a friend or neighbor, and usually that reimbursement that the friend or neighbor gets paid is about half of whatever the home care hours are going for. As Tom used that $28 an hour example, or if it was $30 an hour. And some of it may be based on the minimum wage of the state that client resides in. So that's another way that you can actually, take care of getting those hours, either anytime or agency. And if you listen to the recording that we have on the True Freedom, I think you'll learn more of the ins and outs. And you'll see when Tom takes us to our resource page, the website that we've created, you'll see again where you can get that information. But, Tom, it is important with whether being prepared is, and I know you're advancing to the website, so I'll just pick up on a couple of the remaining things. Starting the conversation and cross having that cross conversation with a client who may be a life client. It could be a long-term care client. They could be a final expense client, a Medicare client. Remember, it's so darn easy, and we don't want to necessarily take the time with this because this is a home care only, but we have recordings that will help you in how to start the conversation, how actually to frame the question, how actually to listen to what they say, and then drill down to the next question. But in particular, these home care only plans are so darn easy. It's very easy at the end of any interview or any review that you're handling. And so the site that we've created is integritystc.com. And Tom, why don't you navigate those on the call who can see maybe the highlights of where to go to get access to the information we've been talking about today.
You bet. You bet. If you've been on previous webinars again, you'll hear me say quite often, we don't toss you out of that plane without a parachute. And this is a big part of it right here. If you go to integritystc.com, and the partner of ours, an integrity partner who had invited you on this call, should know about that, and maybe they have a link on their website even or something, because this is really a valuable site for you. And you're going to see, before I jump to the sales part, that's the most important part, you do have on all the products that we have in our Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative here. You can see here's our comprehensive short-term care plans Dennis talked about in our intro. And then you can see down here, here's our home health care only plans we talked about today. Any one of these you can click on, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of information about those plans. And again, I'm not going to go through this with you today, but it'll have availability for you, and it'll have just a basic bird's eye view of the product, how it's set up. And then it'll have brochures, marketing materials for consumer use, etc. So all the different things for all the different carriers that you'd have on there. But when we go to the sales and marketing area, a lot of you really can gain some insights here. You can click here or in the sales and marketing area to get on our InstaPivot tool. I'm not going to go through that today, but we have full training on it. And if you really want to be a student of the game and understand exact health conditions for all these different products, it's a really easy tool to find out what's available in what state, and based on health, what product you can offer your clients. But that is all shown here. It's going to take a second, I guess. There we go. And it gives some stats here about what is extended care. Then it goes into all the different things you'd need to be successful out in the field. And if you look at product and sales training, this is one of the big ones. There's 49 different webinars on there and short subjects. So if you go view full webinars case, you're going to see it'll open up, and it takes a little bit longer because we're on a webinar. There's the nice building that Integrity is housed in down in Dallas. And then it takes a little bit here because we're on a webinar. It's filling in all these things. Here's short-term care sales 201. I told you if you weren't on the call yesterday, check it out. It's already up there. So this is a living, breathing site that everything we do and everything we add to help you in the sales side of it will be added to this site as it becomes available. And you can see here, look at those, all these coaches corners, different things we talk about, packaging short-term care with life. Some of these are longer, the full versions like you're hearing today, you can see. And then either on this site or over here, we have little short fun fact videos that you can go to. And there's a whole different library of those that are a little bit shorter. And down here below, we have fireside chats and sales strategies with Dennis Reiner. Again, these are great. Dennis has years of experience in going out and teaching you about sales 101 and teaching you mainly about how that fits into the short-term care or extended care market. Then we have InstaPivot is available here again, and even marketing assets for consumer use that's available here for an info pack to help you get the attention of some of your clients. You guys have a huge head start of everybody else out there, because most of you on this call are already selling something like MAs or med sups or final expense or something else. That's the beauty of that, because 7 out of 10 people will use an extended care type product. And all you have to do is listen to one of our webinars about starting the conversation and going in, and it'll teach you everything from designing a plan, developing need, etc. Sorry, Dennis, I had to grab a drink. Anything you want to add to that, or should we just finish her up?
I think, Tom, the site is super helpful. You know, as agents, you're busy. This may not be a core product for you, core offering, and therefore, unlike Medicare or final expense or life or annuities, you might say, hey, I had a fingertip, I know where everything is. Here, you don't have to worry about tracking down those PDFs. You basically just go to the site and you can get everything you need, which is there available to you with any of the carriers. And more importantly, from a preparation standpoint, if you'll take just a few extra minutes before your next interview and prepare more carefully, you can go and watch one of those videos, or again, take the time to study some of the materials in advance of your call.
You bet. You bet. That being said, I tell you what, Dennis, thanks again for your insights today. And for those of you on the call, more importantly, thank you. I can't stress enough. I'm very passionate about this industry. And not only will you make a ton of money selling these products, because we know it's not a hobby, but more importantly, you're going to have better stickiness with your clients. You're going to gain more favor in their minds because you can be a trusted advisor on several different topics, not just what you may be doing every day. And finally, you know what? The persistency that never gets better. Every stat out there shows the more products you have with the same client, the harder it is for that agent next year to come in and swipe that client away for a little bit cheaper med sup plan or whatever it might be. So really take the time, check out the site, and the next step is up to you. Contact your marketer. There's a lot of gray hair in America. That part is what I'm really passionate about. These Americans need help, and they're up to folks like you. If you don't ask, somebody else will, or more importantly, nobody else will, and those people won't have the opportunity to have that important protection. So on behalf of myself and Dennis, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you on another webinar very soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
The next step is yours. Contact your marketer for more information and to start offering short-term care solutions to your clients. And be sure to sign up for our other short-term care hot topic webinars.